So here we are, back in your garage again, Les, and it's been a long time since we saw this bike. And it's been, in fact, I checked, last time I videoed this bike was the summer of 2012, when it was just on the road. It wasn't even finished yet, it was just popping and banging. You needed to do a lot more setup yet.
Yeah.
And since then, a lot's happened with this bike. In fact, it's still happening because you're still changing it. So shall we just go through, since 2012 when the bike was first kind of tentatively on the road, what's happened to the bike? Because I know it's had a lot of things done to it, but probably you can't tell by just looking at it.
It's now on its third supercharger because I wasn't happy with the original two.
So what was wrong with the first one then?
First one was too small.
Yeah, so it wasn't making enough boost.
Wasn't making enough boost. Second supercharger was making boost, but not where I wanted it.
So what was that second supercharger then?
That was a Sprintex S102 screw blower.
So so when you say it wasn't making the power where you wanted it to, was it all at the top end or?
Yeah, the power was coming in, the boost was coming in around 6,000 RPM, and I wanted it off idle.
Yes.
Which is the whole advantage of a supercharger.
Okay. So what's the supercharger on it now?
It's an Eaton M90.
What's that normally fitted to?
It's normally fitted to a 3.5 litre cars.
Right.
So it might be a bit big for the bike, but we'll see.
Now, just saying, oh, I fitted a new supercharger, that sounds, oh great, that easy, but it's not, is it? Because that requires a hell of a lot of new engineering and a hell of a lot of new work. So I'm now going to move the camera and we'll zoom in on what those changes have been.
Right.
Okay, so we moved the camera and now we're looking at the sort of supercharger area, and in particular, this here billet manifold, which I know has to be changed each time you want to fit a different blower.
Correct.
Right, so how's this been done then? Is it like a, it looks like it's like a sandwich of billet pieces?
Yeah, flat plate bolted to the cylinder head,
Okay.
and then the manifold then screws to that, and I've made an adapter plate to match up to the Eaton.
Yeah, okay, cool. But then if we try and squeeze round on the other side, we'll see all the other things that have to happen to make a supercharger work on a Z1000 engine. So just a minute, we'll move again. Okay, so we've now come around the other side, and we're a bit squished up here, we haven't got much room, but what we see here is the blower drive on this side here, which in turn is driven by a belt, which in turn is driven by a pulley attached to the end of your crank.
Correct.
I think that's about right.
Yeah.
That sounds, oh that's easy that, but it's not easy, is it? So what have you had to change then in the last two sort of iterations of this bike, having different superchargers? Have you had to have different pulleys and different belts and so on?
The main problem I had was a little bit of clutch slip.
Yeah.
So I've put what's known as a lock-up clutch on.
Right.
Which is meant spacing out the clutch cover.
Which we can see here, so that's like an extra bit.
Spacer there,
yeah.
So that's, I've had to move the drive out more to the right to clear the cover.
Okay, which in turn means everything else has got to move.
Which means the nose drive's got to be longer and everything, new shaft on inside the nose drive.
Yeah. So when everybody says, oh yeah, it's great, it's just got a supercharger on it, it's actually a huge amount of work, and if once you've done it, it doesn't always work first time, because what this is a kind of like an experiment, isn't it? It's like a test. And you never get it right first time.
No.
So, but nevertheless, after 6 years, you have been riding it a lot, and I happen to know you actually dropped it, didn't you, at one point, which damaged your original pipe.
Damaged the original exhaust, yeah.
And in fact, you're now in the process of making a new pipe for the bike, just to be a bit different, to make it sound a bit different, and so on.
Yeah.
So if we look down here, we see some stainless steel pipework, which will one day be the exhaust system. And if we go around the front of the engine, we can see how far you've got so far with the headers. So let's do that now. And so here we are at the front of the engine. We've got these 4 new downpipes, also with one-off collets as well, because that's all different, isn't it? They're all one-off.
Vance and Hines collars, yeah.
Okay, and now you're still kind of, I think, not quite sure which design to go for.
No.
But overall, from what I can gather, you're going to go for basically a quite simple straight-through pipe with all 4 pipes exiting on the same side, i.e. on this side, on the drive side,
on the right side of the bike, yeah.
And that's about it, really.
Yeah.
And you're now currently making that, as I say, it's a question of just finding time, isn't it, and holding it and not being sure. Having made an exhaust pipe, I know it's an absolute pain in the arse to do.
Yeah.
Okay. But I can just see in the corner of my viewfinder something else different. These are Brembo brakes, which are not standard Brembo brakes anymore, because you've got monoblocks fitted to standard way up, or whatever you want to call it. What are these forks? These are
ZX6R.
ZX6R, obviously with Maxton internals. Let me just move the camera so we can see that. Okay, so we've moved the camera. Now, what I can't remember what brakes you used to have on it. What were they originally?
They were the original ZX6 6-pot calipers,
yeah,
with 300mm discs, and they were just totally inadequate. They wouldn't pull the bike up.
Right.
It was a bit scary.
Yeah. Well, now you've got obviously these Maxton modified internals.
All re-sprung and revalved to suit the weight of the bike.
Yeah. These very expensive and very nice Brembo monoblocks with a one-off bracket, quite a complicated bracket to bolt this to this.
Yeah.
Which I think your kid did,
Jeff
did.
did that.
And then to go with it, you got these rather cool looking, very cool looking discs. And these are by
PFM on the Isle of Man.
Yeah.
They are cast iron, not stainless steel, which is a better material for braking.
Yeah.
So
and what size are they?
They're 320mm.
Yeah, it's a little bit bigger than you had before.
Yeah, the standard 320mm, biggest you can get.
And what you're saying, they do both kind of like a race version and a road version?
Yeah, they're the wide track, known as a wide track disc, and they do a narrow track disc.
And what's the difference? Is it the offset?
They're about 30mm from here to here.
Oh, right, okay.
And the narrow track are about 20mm.
Because being old fashioned, that looks quite thin to me as it is, but yeah.
No, the narrow track are even narrower.
Right, okay. Okay, so let's look at what else we've got. And I do see one more little change. A little change, but still a change. You've got a new tank badge.
Yeah.
And in fact, the paintwork I think has been cleaned up a little bit as well.
Just tidied up a bit, yeah.
But it still needs a bit more, I think.
Yeah.
Now everyone's going to say, haha, you copied that off the new Kawasaki H2R, because that's what Dave used in that symbol.
Everyone will say that.
Yeah, but in fact, you wanted that about 5 years ago.
Yeah, before the H2R ever came out, I wanted that symbol on the tank.
Except no one made it, so you couldn't get one.
I wanted it to say Kawasaki without saying the word Kawasaki.
Yeah. So you've got that now. Oops, just kicked something. Okay, so looking at the bike then, since 2012, what else has changed? Can you think of anything else?
A lot of internal changes, mainly in the cylinder head. I've put bigger camshafts in.
All right, okay.
Higher lift, changed the valves, changed the head gasket, changed the oiling system to the cams. Lots of little changes that you can't see externally.
Yeah. And everyone's going to ask the question, how much power does it make? I bet it makes X. And the answer to that question is?
I don't know.
No idea. It's not been on a dyno.
It's been on a dyno, but the bike was not running well enough to do a power run.
Yeah.
I've since done about 4,000 miles on it in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
With no breakdowns or problems at all.
Yeah.
Completely reliable.
Yeah. And the seat of your pants kind of feel, I mean, you've ridden loads of different bikes, so what do you think it is?
I think with the previous camshafts, which are probably the restricting factor, I think it was making about 150 horsepower, maybe about 100 foot-pound of torque.
Yeah, with a lot of torque, because that's what superchargers do, they give you a huge amount of...
I built it mainly for torque and grunt, not top-end power. Power doesn't interest me.
No. And hopefully with these new changes, you might get a bit more, and maybe we'll stick it on a dyno one day.
I would imagine over 200 horsepower easily now.
Yeah.
So I've put sticky tyres on and improved the brakes.
Yeah. Okay, so looking at the back of the bike, I've noticed a small change, and a very expensive change, no doubt. A custom-made Maxton rear shock. So,
correct.
What is this? Does it have a particular name or code number?
It does. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it is a custom-built shock for the weight of the bike again.
Right.
The original R1 shocker was way too soft, even for the standard R1. So I always planned on putting a one-off custom-built shock in it.
I see you've got a little adjuster knob there, so is that for adjusting the damping?
There's preload and damping adjustments. They set it up for me at Maxton, and it handles fantastically. And
the good news is Maxton aren't too far away from us, are they? They're only about, what,
10 miles away, 12 miles down the road.
So pretty easy to go and see them.
Yeah.
And also what I'm looking at is some pretty nice rear sprocket there, so let me just go down there, focus on that a wee bit. Yeah, I think that might have been new as well. I mean, is that sprocket and your chain new?
Yeah, over the last few years I've been playing with the gearing, and it's been a bit too low, the gearing, so I've been putting smaller and smaller sprockets on using cheap steel sprockets. And when I was happy with the gearing, I finally bought the Super sprocket on that you can see now. So you can't get any smaller than that.
No, so it's not like an aluminium centre with a steel...
Yeah, riveted on as in the discs.
Yeah. And have you also painted this recently?
No, those wheels were painted in 2000, 2001.
God, it's still doing well?
Well, they've only done 4,000 miles, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I've had another front sprocket made with a 1 tooth bigger to try and gear it up more.
Yeah, let's go for that.
You're talking £120 for a front sprocket to be made by Talon. And it's supported on the outside by an outrigger plate.
Yeah, so I'll just move the camera to look at the front sprocket, which again is not standard whatsoever. It's got an offset built into it.
Yep.
Because I've just learned, I didn't know, the frame itself has been widened.
Correct.
By about an inch, which is a hell of a lot of work back in the day. And it's also got this one-off sprocket support, outrigger bearing.
Yep.
To keep it in place, and it's obviously hydraulic as well.
Converted to hydraulic clutch.
Yeah. So it's great. Oh, great! I've just converted it. Well, you did that by having to make things from scratch. So to make that probably took God knows how long. Plus, you might have done it. I mean, I've done it where I've done a conversion and it didn't work. You know, the ratios were wrong. It was too stiff. Let's start again. And so when you're making something like this, a sort of one-off bike, nothing ever works first time.
No.
And I think people don't appreciate that when you just made that. No, mate. You make it once, then you make it again. And then you make it a third time
until you get it right,
and maybe then it's okay.
Yeah.
So it's a huge kind of a labour of love, really.
Well, all these bikes are a work in progress. They're never really 100% right.
Well, it's not just because they're not right; it's because you can always see things you can improve upon.
Yeah, improvements, correct. Yeah.
Okay, so we're just refocused, and now we're looking at the air filter for the supercharger, and you can see here where it's got to been pressed a wee bit. It still works, but
yeah, it still works.
That's where the front of your boot is like rubbing against it.
Been touching it, yeah.
And that's because you've got this new installation on the supercharger. It's had to move back the supercharger a wee bit.
So it'll be even worse now.
Yeah.
So another modification is to turn the throttle body through 45 degrees to point forward slightly.
Yeah.
And giving me more room, more leg room.
Yeah.
So that's another
change
on the list of things to do. Yeah.
Okay, so one thing we've not talked about is the handlebars, the controls, instrumentation and so on. And from what I remember, these have been changed quite a lot since 2012.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, you've got this new little pot here, in a little billet cover. So what's that all about? What's that?
That's the air-fuel ratio gauge, which was a temporary thing to put on the bike while setting the fueling up. But I like it, so I'm keeping it as a permanent thing on the bike.
And then you've made a little cover for it.
So my brother's made that billet cover to mount it permanently to the handlebars.
Okay. And then the camera can't see it, but I can see it. So let me move the camera and we'll see what we've got here. Okay, so I've taken the camera off the tripod, so this might be a bit blurry. But what you've got here are new master cylinders, and these are quite cool, very expensive, Brembos.
Yeah.
And they're not standard Brembos, are they? They are adjustable ratio Brembos.
Correct, 19mm bore.
Yeah, on both sides.
On both sides, yeah.
And you were saying the reason for that is because when you had the old one on, at full pull as it were, the clutch was still dragging a wee bit.
Well, I changed the brake side, and then obviously I bought the clutch side to match.
Yeah.
But the added bonus was the original master cylinder on the clutch side wasn't moving enough fluid to completely disengage the clutch. It was dragging very, very slightly.
Yeah.
And now with this on, it's perfect.
You can adjust it just right.
Yeah, it's completely free enough.
Great. And again, it's expensive. I mean, how much do these things cost?
Just over £300 each.
Yeah.
Luckily.
I want them for my bike.
Trade account.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I should mention that Les is a motorcycle mechanic, so that kind of helps a little bit. But still, even at trade prices, it's pretty expensive. Okay, so we're coming to the end now, but there are three more things we should ask about. The first one is the engine size, because it ain't standard anymore, is it? It's
1260cc.
Right, and it was 1000cc from a Mark II.
Yeah.
Kawasaki Mark II.
It's grown to 1100, then 1230, now 1260.
Okay, it's an 8-plug head, which was that's not a head taken from a Zephyr, that's been modified.
That's a modified Z1000 Mark II head, out to 8-plug now.
Yeah, and you mentioned something about the front engine mount.
Yeah, so there's a top engine mount fitted to the bike back in the 80s, because these were renowned for not handling too well.
Yeah.
I decided to add an extra engine mount under here to the frame.
Yeah, you could see. Yeah.
And that one change made the bike handle fantastic.
Yeah.
Stopped all the frame flex.
Yeah.
So I'm quite happy with the way it goes and stops.
Okay.
And handles.
Good stuff. So basically, I think that's it. Until we get to some sunny days, perhaps you can get this finished in whenever it's going to be. I don't
few
know.
weeks' time, we can hear it running.
Yeah, we'll let it running. Maybe come out and when you're happy with it being set up okay, do some outside runs as you go flying past me at Mach 1, and we'll see how those loud pipes sound.
Hopefully.
And that supercharger winding up, spinning up. Okay, until then, I think we'll call it a day. It's time I drank some more tea. So thanks for watching, and cheers.